Welcome back to today's lesson. In this episode, we are going to start with our Express application already. To make it simple, I want to start with something basic and is understand what it is. And maybe I'm going to decrease this and give more prior about this. Of course, once we talk about functional programming, you already know what I'm talking about thanks to the last episode. That maybe was were a pretty boring but important to understand the difference between these. You see this syntax right there. This syntax takes a functional programming approach because we are passing a function to this another function. We have this one, but also we are using, not a OOP programming at all, but we have an object. The app, this stuff or this thing right there is an object, so it's something that comes from OOP. Maybe to understand what we are making right there, we can remove this one for a moment and maybe use this instruction. We're going to use console log to see what are inside app. So first of all, we are going to try to make this and see what's happened. Execute again. And as you can see, we have a lot of information. And I encourage you to make or try this exercise because it's important to know what we are handling. In this case, this object is right there. The reason why we have to execute Express, and as you can see, create that Express application. The Express function is a top-level function as part of the Express module, and after that, see what is the app object and what give us to create this application, because this object is more important than you believe, because this the whole application comes around this object. So this object allows to create, this object allows to implement middlewares, implement roads, implement validation, is the whole server itself. So as you can see, we have a lot. In this case, we have functions, and as you can see, we have the and function that we use. I'm sorry. We have the get function used right. Well, we have the root we are going to use in the future episode. Also, we have the get function. If I look for, on is to use events. And after that, let me see if we see there is the get function, and also we have the delete, we have the put, patch, and post, and more. So maybe this doesn't give us more information. So let's continue with the important. Why we have app.get. So go back to right there. But what's happened, I don't know, if I remove this one and I just use the root. So if we go to localhost 3000, I'm sorry, and as you can see, we doesn't have nothing. Why we doesn't have nothing? Because we are mapping root directory. Root, the root itself, the root path, but we are not providing a response. It's the same as we have this one. If we go back, and as you can see, we have the same response, that is nothing. But if we go back and maybe see the declaration, you see we have, different overloads. So maybe what happened if I try to pass a function, for example, and maybe we have this error just right there, and it give us, this error is thanks to TypeScript, because in vanilla JavaScript doesn't give us this information just right there. And as you can see, the overload match, no overload matches this call. So that means in the method declaration, we don't have something like just a function, because this is a function. We can make something like rec res, and I don't know, rest send hello world, for example. If I save this, we're going to have a pretty nice error. Okay, we have the error, but the terminal clear the information and we don't see nothing. Maybe if I run this in the other way using start, let's see something. Node run start and wait for it. Well, doesn't happen, but this is wrong, and thanks to JavaScript we know why. So go back to the class, the standard one, and the important thing just right there is follow the corresponding declaration. In this case is return or go back to the last one. In this case, use root. If we save again and ask for this, we have hello world. But what's happened if, I don't know, if we add, I don't know, Chryslo, and if you see, if we reload this one, we cannot get again. But if I wrote or type Chryslo just right there, we have the message again. So following this, we see that we can make some interesting experiments like the following approach that we are going to make. So let's create, and based on the functional paradigm, for example, a array that allows us wrote a lot of different routes, because as you can see, we have one argument that is the route and the second argument is the response. So we can create something like this, like a mapping, I don't know, mapping routes or routes, and give us keep the array corresponding to the route and the function that we are going to pass as a result. First of all, this is a functional approach. This is not common in the imperative paradigm or the OOP, because we used to write or type a lot of code, because imperative is pretty boring because we have to write this, and maybe the functional is just like take this and work in the way that you want, but give me results. So in this scenario, that happens. We are going to pass some interesting information right there, pass to the get and get a specific result. So in this case, we are going to map this one. For example, just make this, and as the other argument, okay, I'm sorry, I have to create another element right there, and of course use this one, and as a second parameter we can use a function. So this is where the magic happens. We are going to receive rec and res, but sadly, and the reason why we use TypeScript is because we don't know what this means. So let's try to explicit at the typo just right there, and in this case we are going to use the request, but be careful once you try to import the types, because we have a lot, and maybe you can get confused with this request just right there, but this request is not this request is come from the fetch API, is come from Node.js, but is not the express request. So go back to this. This shortcut right there allows to look for the origin of a resource, in this case this typo, and if I type control plus a spacebar, we see the results again. It's the same that if we write again and we have this. We need the request from Express, and as you can see, this import updates automatically and give us the request, but the request is a typo, so we can improve this writing type just right there. But well, we can use is inside of it. I sometimes forgot the syntax, and the response is this happens the same. Response, be careful, is not the first one, is the second one who tell us express. So once we can use res and use, thanks to TypeScript, we have access to the types again. So have access to the whole methods and attributes that the REST object has. In this case, we are going to use send and use hello world from root. So that's nice. And because we are all I don't know how to say this, because we are lazy programmers, we are going to remove this one and make a, well, I hate Copilot, so I'm going to remove Copilot because I don't want to spoilers. We are going to take another approach from functional programming, is make a mapping inside the array and use each result and pass to the argument as to the function as arguments. So for example, I'm going to start with roads, and well, this depends. We can use this one or use the other one. Well, we can use this one and use for each. For each, if I'm not grown, returns nothing, so that's nice. And after that, we are going to, well, for each element, we are going to receive 2 elements more come from, well, from another array. So we can maybe save this array and use right there. So first of all, let's see what's happened if I try to see the first parameter just right there. So let's use console log, and what happened is I use array and I don't know, go to the first pattern. As you can see, we have this one. This is not come from for nothing, come from for, because I'm using console log. So I can write, I don't know, first parameter. And as you can see, we have first parameter this. And maybe if I use the or get the function, we have this one. Yeah, it's like a function. This is not the function itself, it's just like a human or verbal representation about the function, and yeah, that's all. So once we have this information just right there, we can use in the following sentence, well, like we can use app get, and thanks to that we can use from array give as the first parameter. Remember, the first parameter is the root, so we can pass the first one, and after that we can pass the second one is the response, and that's it. Maybe if you see errors, is because we are not having respect for the types, because as you can see, well, this is implicit, but we have maybe a array that we have a lot of information that maybe doesn't give us a lot of information, but this works. So we are going to save this and go back. If I reload the page, we are going to see the response. So that's pretty interesting. Maybe we can improve the type just right there. Maybe giving information. Well, we can improve in the following one. For example, we can use this one just right there and passing this syntax and give the routes and the callback maybe. Well, the callback or the handler. And after that, we can use root just right there and the handler. But we are going to have the same error, but also we are going to have the same result, as you can see. Well, we have this error used right here because we are not using the corresponding type. And maybe, okay, I think I'm using another, I'm sorry, because I don't know. TypeScript error. Okay, I'm using another profile. I'm sorry. I'm going to switch profile. Going to use the. Okay. Well, I have a problem with the profiles, but I have a TypeScript extension that maybe makes the error better. And I don't remember if this one. Well, ignore this. Okay, it's just right there. Pretty TypeScript. I highly recommend this one to understand the TypeScript errors better. And if we go back to right there, this tell us yeah, it's just like, hey, you are passing me something that is not corresponding to the requirement, because it's like, okay, example string, and we need the following one, and maybe makes a lot of noise. So the way to resolve this, we have to add maybe a little or extra code just for TypeScript and make sure that we are passing this right. So first of all, we are going to start in this section, and we are going to include this is array, and this array has an an array itself, and this array has the first argument is a string, and the second argument is a function that, well, depending, this maybe give us void, I don't remember at all, and this function just right there give us the rec and response object, then corresponding this one just right there, the request and the response. So after this, okay, this is redundant, I have to remove this, and as you can see, the problem has been resolved. It's like to make sure, or being explicit, that hey, always this will be a string, and in all the scenarios this will be a callback on a function, an anonymous function that receives request and response. And once we have this, we can remove this one, and it's enough. Why it is enough? Because thanks to this declaration just right there. So thanks to this declaration is enough to give information to this one. So we have the rec object and the whole thing, and also in the for each buckle we have the root, and we already know that the root is a string, and the handler is the following one. And thanks to that, well, the app is still working, but the typos are right at all. So I am going to display this approach because this is functional programming, because we don't care about the process behind the get function. We are just only passing information and care about the result, and as you can see. And this is interesting because we can make reusable code at all. Well, functional programming is about reusable code. It's like, hey, I have to create this one time, and I'm going to pass to this specific location some information, and automatically we are going to pass to a specific function and resolve a result. So that means we can create another path just in this way and make it some dynamically. So for example, I'm going to create the Chris path and create the response to that path, and that's it. Or I can remove this one just right there, and I don't know, use resend, and I don't know, hello Chris, you're welcome. And if I've saved this and go back and read Chris, okay, I'm sorry, it's Chris. As you can see, we have Chris, we have the result. So that's pretty interesting. And maybe, I don't know, if you want to include information about Node.js or something like that, we can go back, and as you can see, well, we have a different format, but we still have this information right there. We have the current date, and this is pretty nice because we are going to follow this approach to create a folder structure that allows to create routes and take them dynamically, and build the application with a different approach than the classic OOP, and maybe following the functional approach. So I hope this video was helpful. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I really enjoyed to understand both imperative and declarative programming, because follow different approaches, different guidelines that maybe just establish the way that we are going to create an application, in this case this Express web server. So I hope this video was helpful, and see you in the next time, well, in the next episode, where we are going to create a pretty nice routing module based on folders. So stay tuned.